Previously on Cloud Management Monthly.
I'm Steve Athanas, VMUG president, and I owed a couple of guys a favor, so here I am. I've been a fan for a long time, this being your first episode. Chalk me up as your longest-term fan.
First topic should be, what is cloud management?
So managing the cloud, to me anyways, just from my perspective, is about making sure that your investments and your infrastructure and your partnerships are in line with what the business needs. The reason we have IT at all is not to keep the computers running, right? There's a reason we have the computers, and it's to make the organization more efficient and more effective. Your internal stakeholders don't know who you are, don't know the value you're bringing. You need to be able to communicate with them and in their language and show them that you are the person to connect business value to technology and can translate that. Because there are two different languages that effectively go to the same place.
My name is Graham Barker, and I'm today's guest on the Cloud Management Monthly podcast. And here's Dan and Matt.
Welcome, everybody, to Cloud Management Monthly. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dan. With me is Matt. Matt, how are you doing today, sir?
All things considered, not too bad. Can't complain. How about yourself?
Great. I'm doing good. I just want to say, before we get started, thanks to everybody for watching and listening the last episode. We really appreciate it. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, please go ahead and do that. We have a really great show set up for this episode. Last episode, we talked about what is cloud management. Matt, what's on tap for today?
Yeah, and today we decided we're going to take things a little, step further here so we've defined what is cloud management. Now, how do we get started with cloud management? So we have a very special guest today to talk to us about his experiences working with customers on, really how to get started down that journey. So, Dan, what are some of the pieces when you think of cloud management, right? What are some of the things that you think are important aspects of cloud management?
Yeah, that's I think where we start off, right? I think companies need to first have a cloud strategy, or they at least need to determine what their cloud objectives are. The customers that I work with are going down really a path of hybrid cloud, and they need to consume a couple public clouds or one public cloud based on their own individual needs, like performance or cost, or what native services that they're looking to consume with their modern applications. When I started at VMware, my customers were working out what cloud they should use. Now what I hear them asking is really, how do I choose the right cloud management platform?
Exactly. The cloud management platform, we're not talking just monitoring. We are talking things like automation, right? We want to kind of get out of that just being a virtual machine factory and being able to automate various tasks, because IT is just getting stretched thinner and thinner, right? But then there are obviously those other management aspects to it, such as security and compliance, right? That was a big one that we talked about in our last episode. Cost management, capacity management, right? Making sure that our cloud is serving the needs of the business. And then, of course, troubleshooting too.
Yeah, absolutely. We really need to build on an existing skill set. I think customers need to look to do. It's very difficult. It takes a long time to learn a new platform. The longer it takes, the longer they really get, lose out on that opportunity to realize the value of their investment. And, I think one thing that customers kind of miss on, and you hit on it just a bit, is having that strong support availability and professional services behind the solution, so that, customers can get the platform deployed correctly. They get knowledge transfer, and then there's the ability to kind of quickly solve their issues when they arise.
Right. And of course, being able to integrate with existing solutions too, right? You don't want to grow into a cloud management, really start thinking about a cloud management strategy that's going to require you to rip and replace absolutely, all of the guts of your infrastructure too, right? You want to be able to integrate with what you have. So Dan, that brings us to our first guest. We know him from the vExpert Cloud Management Program. He's also a member of the vExpert Cloud Provider Program. And you in the audience, you may know him from his amazing work blogging at virtualg.uk. as a public speaker, used on podcasts, VMworld, local user groups. Graham Barker, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, and I've been working with cloud management solutions for quite some time now. The VMware one's probably the last 5 years or so. So those would include some of the vRealize, some of the solutions in the vRealize stack. I joined the vExpert program I think about 4 years ago, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was about 2 years ago I joined the cloud management program, and then there's also the service provider side of it as well, which I just joined recently too. So I'll try and get involved with a lot of things. So
yeah, that's great.
Hopefully the community contributions are helpful to somebody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, all of your blog posts, we read them all. They're all fantastic. We chose you as our guest this month because in our first episode, we sat down with Steve Athanas, vMug president, to talk about what is cloud management. And this month's episode is focused on how do customers get started with cloud management, right? We've already kind of talked about what it is. So how do customers get started? And given your background as, you've been a cloud architect and consultant working with many, many different companies, many customers and so forth, we figured you'd have really good perspective on how customers can get started. I'm sure you've seen some customers that probably don't have a cloud management strategy, and probably customers that are partway through, and maybe some that are more mature. So, maybe tell us a little bit about some of the things, as a consultant and so forth, you've seen based on, kind of the maturity of customers in different phases through their cloud management journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing to take away from starting a cloud management project is really to look at what it is you're looking to manage. Historically, I found that customers wanted to manage the storage, they wanted to manage their compute and the networking, and then I kind of realized over the last maybe 5 years that customers really care about the app. It's more about the app than anything else. If the app is functioning and it's meeting SLAs and business requirements, then the hardware, yes, of course, it all runs on hardware. We need to manage that, but the analytics and the business want to see how the app's performing, and how well that's getting managed by the business by the business teams. So the saying "it's all about the app," it couldn't be more true in today's world. We've got apps in all sorts of cloud platforms, whether that they could be on-prem, they can be Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, or they could be in like a bespoke cloud solution or software as a service somewhere. So my kind of understanding about what clients really want to do is they say they want to employ cloud management, but you need to find out at what layer. And most of the time, clients come back and say, it's the app. We care about how well our mail is doing, how well our public-facing applications are running, etc. So the app really is the focus. But for the app to function, we need the underlying components. So we as architects need to find something and employ something that will do all of that. But the fact that there's a focus on the app is really what the business will want to see.
So, I mean, really, yeah, the focus is on the app, and that's kind of what we heard from Steve as well, is that, as IT, we're here to deliver a service, to deliver a product to meet the business's needs, and that's what the applications ultimately are doing. From a cloud management standpoint, I mean, you mentioned, okay, we've got different types of platforms. We've got private cloud, we've got public cloud. How are customers viewing... Do customers view, say, public cloud as maybe a different silo from private cloud when they're looking at where to deploy applications and how to manage things? Because there's slightly different strategy between how you manage a private cloud and manage a public cloud, correct?
Yeah, exactly. In the private cloud, you tend to be in charge or responsible for those underlying components that you mentioned before. But with like a public cloud, if you're just using applications in the public cloud, then you may not be. So that would be less of a concern. Hence why it's so important to find a tool and a solution and build something for the client that will cater for those different use cases.
What use cases are you seeing customers solving with a cloud management platform? What are they looking to solve with that?
The biggest thing that I find clients trying to fix is all the silos. So with cloud adoption, you kind of mentioned it before there. There ends up being this is the on-prem, this is the data center A, data center B, center C. Then you've got all your different cloud solutions, software as a service on top of all of this. So it doesn't always mean regional, but it could be like where the app is, or how it's being built, for example. So yeah, I think that's kind of where one of the biggest challenge really is managing all of that in one kind of single pane of glass. I know it's a term that's maybe been overused, but you certainly don't want to be logging into 7 different control panels to figure out what's going on when the business is shouting, saying, why isn't this working, or why can't we deploy X within our SLAs? So yeah, I think that's the biggest problem that gets that we need to attack and help our customers with.
Yeah, I know in past, the silos were network, they were, virtualization, they were storage, right? And now with customers trying to adopt multi-cloud environments, those silos are really shifting between AWS, Azure, all the rest of the public clouds. So I hear my customers a lot trying to solve for that exact use case is how are we able to manage policy and deploy across a number of multiple clouds, and the way they're achieving that is with adding in just kind of one additional layer with cloud management. Is that something that you see customers? Is it just kind of that single pane of glass, or do you see them saying, hey, we need automation to deploy to multiple clouds, we need security across multiple clouds, or is it really just kind of like, hey, we want to get this all under one pane of glass to see everything that we're working on?
Yeah, so I find that customers, first of all, they want to see what's where in that single pane of glass. And then when they know how everything's performing and where everything is, capacity, etc., then they'll typically look at like an automation tool to drive commissioning and decommissioning of the components within those environments. So yeah, first and foremost tends to be the management and the monitoring of it all, and the management of that, and then secondly, like the automation of those platforms. If they're difficult to see, if you can't see the wood for the trees, then you can't really build a good strategy for automation.
Are you seeing companies do it in phases, like a phased-in approach? Are they starting with maybe performance and capacity management and then phasing in different aspects of it? Or do you generally see the customers that you've worked with kind of, trying to get a full platform that incorporates all of that into, one deployment or, one grouping of it, rather than just, doing each individual component separately?
I think there's a desire to have it all within the same kind of ecosystem, and that comes back to trying to kind of extract the requirements from the business before you start on a project like this. Otherwise, you end up using the wrong tools. If you can't see the long-term vision, then you'll end up putting in all these different tools, and then they don't have that single pane of glass again. So yeah, I think that's really where that is.
What are some of the challenges that the business might face that, say, a single cloud management platform could help solve versus maybe using many different platforms and maybe many different tools to try to achieve the same thing?
Yeah, so sometimes there is a benefit of using many different tools, but it comes with a series of disadvantages. So with having many different tools, then okay, you get good you can have great flexibility because many tools do many things. But that comes with a cost implication, a significant management overhead. Then you've got to host the solution in somewhere, or multiple solutions somewhere. So there's all the added operational expenditure and capex, etc., for those things. Whereas the benefits of having everything in the single solution obviously mean you can alleviate all those problems and make management and operations more efficient. And then obviously with the one tool, you would hope that there's interoperability between all the subcomponents, which gives you more visibility and more kind of benefit, and essentially getting your money's worth out of all the investment that you've put into the platform.
And I'd add to that too. One thing we hear a lot is consistency too. So if your infrastructure team is running one tool, and maybe you have a capacity team that's doing things a different way, right? There are so many different ways, just even capacity alone, to look at it. Whether we're looking at what's actually getting used, what's actually allocated. So there could be a lot of back and forth too if there's inconsistency in the tools that are being used. With that, I mean, what are some of the other kinds of things that customers are kind of looking to do with a cloud management platform?
Yeah, I think obviously managing in multiple environments in the one is the big one. But there's also a focus on cost as well these days. It's very difficult to predict costing for all of the cloud platforms, especially, and compare it against on-prem. Placement of applications and virtual machines is a common challenge as well. So we would look for something that would give us accurate costing based on where things currently are, and recommend good placement of applications for not just for cost beneficiary reasons, but also for your performance, your availability, and your management purposes too.
Mm-hmm.
Where do those conversations start when you're working with customers and you're talking about solving for business challenges? Are those cloud management platform conversations started kind of at the technical level with the engineers, or is it really started at the business level with executives trying to solve for something and maybe don't even realize that a cloud management platform is a way that can help them solve for costing or performance issues? So when you're talking with customers, where do those conversations generally start? If a customer doesn't have a cloud management platform, is it the technical guys coming to you, or is it the business side that is looking to solve for issues?
Generally speaking, I find that IT is almost like a support platform for the business, unless of course you're selling IT, in which case it's a different scenario. But and based on that, it really should be business drivers that are putting the requirements in for what they need to achieve at the business level. So if they're hosting, if you take a bank for example, they may have a banking app and a website and all these essentially customer-facing systems which are hosted on IT platforms. So the business will probably have a challenge. For example, the performance of this isn't great. We don't know how much it's costing us. We don't know how great the availability is, etc. And we need something that will help us manage that. And then you would start to talk to the IT guys, and you'd ask them, how is it, where is it deployed, how big is it, etc. And then we can start looking at a tool that will help with that. So to answer your question, it's really the business should be driving what it is that they're trying to achieve, not dictate the technical of it as such. But if you look at the business challenge, then you can best fit a tool into fixing that.
So in that scenario, how would you help? What advice would you give to a customer that's maybe trying to evaluate such a tool?
Yeah, so it's going to be important to look at what SLAs you have within the business and how you want to go about measuring those. There's going to be some level of measurement, no matter how crude it is to start with, because otherwise, how do you know there's a problem? So having good SLAs is a great way to start selecting a product that will actually fix those for you or help at least manage them.
Yeah, do you see when you were working with different customers, do you see a lot of variance in the requirements for cloud management, or are customers generally, and companies generally thinking down the same path?
Yeah, so every customer I speak to is in a different journey on their adoption of cloud. So their cloud journey differs. Most I find are in like a hybrid state or trying to achieve a hybrid state. So they may have some on-prem and they're trying to burst that into the cloud, or give them an ability like an active into cloud. So if they lost one, then they could still operate. That's kind of a nice middle ground on a cost basis as well, because you're not all in, and it also can mitigate some risk too. Again, because we're not all in on either side. So yeah, I think like a hybrid approach is certainly where I see most customers at the moment in their cloud adoption stage.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not every application is meant for say, bursting to public cloud. And just kind of going back to something you talked about with trying to determine the best placement for, say, an application, whether it's private cloud, public cloud. Do you find a lot of customers are public cloud first, public cloud considered? Everything's going to be on-prem, with the exception of maybe some high SLA or applications that we can provide DR in the cloud. Like, what kind of strategy do you see a lot of customers really taking from that approach?
To be honest with you, it varies based on the kind of in the industry. So a lot of it will be governed by regulation and internal politics and things like this. But on the whole, I find that existing applications tend to stay on-prem, and then new applications certainly considered at least for cloud as a cloud service, or by hosting them yourself on a cloud platform somewhere. So yeah, I think it does depend on the industry, though. They all vary very differently.
Do you see challenges with companies wanting to stick with the tools that they're familiar with rather than kind of incorporating into a platform, a whole cloud management platform? Like, oh yeah, we do automation this way, we don't need it here, or this is how we do cost metrics, we don't really need. Did you have a lot of challenges with kind of driving home a solution, an understanding of a solution that can incorporate all of those and not having to bolt on different parts of it from multiple different companies?
Yeah, so when you talk to IT teams about putting a new solution in, there's always kind of hesitation. That's going to require a whole new education package, training solution as well. So there is a lot of hesitation because IT teams, I've yet to find an IT team that's not overstretched already. So we're already very busy doing what we're trying to do and trying to achieve our outcomes for the business. So the last thing we want is a new platform in that we have to sort of adopt. But I think when you kind of go through the benefits of a new platform and how easy the newer systems are now, rather than the old traditional ways of managing things, then I think the kind of the cost benefit that people do in their minds almost makes it a no-brainer to move to something new, just because it takes a significant amount of time. Well, it gives a significant amount of time back to the team due to all the automation and all the other intelligent things that they can do these days. We talked about machine learning and things like this that do a lot of things in the background for you.
So we mentioned SLAs, there's training. Are there other things that customers should consider when they're looking for a cloud management platform, or to get started with, trying to skill up their cloud management, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important when looking at any kind of solution that's managing clouds, or even any cloud solution, to be honest, to make sure that there's several tick boxes that are checked before going ahead. And some of them include things like scalability. You want to make sure that the platform you're choosing will grow with you, rather than kind of leveling off at a certain level and then you kind of exceeding its abilities. The other things are ensuring that it's capable of managing all the things that you're planning on doing now and are in the future. And some platforms don't do that such, but some do have good roadmaps, and you can tell by the frequency of releases that they're heading in the right direction, and that it's almost a no-brainer that they will be managing these things in the future. So that's always a very good thing to look at, is how frequent are the updates and how significant are the new features within those updates as well.
How about security and compliance? Where do you see that fitting in? Is that certainly a concern? Nowadays everybody's more concerned about security and how it's built into the platform. How much do you see that playing a role in how a customer or company chooses and gets started with a cloud management platform?
Yeah, I don't know what the figures are, but I imagine the adoption of cybersecurity teams and expansion of those teams is, it must have grown an order of magnitude in the last few years. Certainly, everywhere that I've worked has a cybersecurity team now, whereas in the past you kind of just sort of the IT ops guys would just look into it now and then.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The security guys are always brought in secondary. Now they got to be right at the table first, right? Nobody wanted to bring them in right away. Now you have to.
Right. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very important team that every business should really have now, and certainly a lot of them do. I think in terms of a cloud management strategy, really need something that would allow that team to get a visualization of what's going on as well in these cloud environments. It's something that is a little bit lacking, I think, in terms of the tools that are out there. But it's definitely on the rise. You know, you just have to look at the number of vulnerabilities that are out there in the wild these days and compare them to previous years, and then you look at the hiring in the cloud security space, just to show that these tools they're going to be on it and they're going to be catching up.
Some awesome insights. We could probably go into the fun stuff. So Graham, you're in Isle of Man, right? Where exactly is that, and how are things there given the current climate of what's going on in the world these days?
Yeah, the Isle of Man is a small island in the Irish Sea. It's in between England, Scotland, and Ireland in Britain. We're in a very fortunate situation where we don't really have a border of anybody. We have this sea around us, several miles of sea, so it's very difficult just to travel in, which is very useful. We're very, very fortunate to be in that position. The government here is independent from the rest of the UK, so we were able to make our own decisions quite quickly, and we were able to lock the borders down very, very quickly, very early on during the whole situation. So we've had a couple of deaths, and we've had also unfortunately some number of the population infected as well. But the rate dropped off very quickly, and we've been I like to call it COVID free for almost 2 months now.
Wow.
But it's so very, very good achievement, and very, very happy with where I am. It's quite fortunate to be living here, actually, given what's going on, and so that's quite reassuring.
Yeah. Now, how has travel been? I mean, you were consulting before. Were you traveling a lot off the Isle, or were you able to do a lot of work remote to begin with?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. Most of the work was already remote, so there'd be some contracts in the UK and further afield, which I'd work on remotely, and that keeps costs down. It's you can be more reactive to issues and start projects quicker and get them finished faster for the business as well. So the already kind of adopted a work from home approach on those things, or remote approach, and it seems to go quite well. Then obviously with the lockdown and the inability to travel, which we still have here, we still have those borders locked down to a certain extent, and that really hasn't changed the way of working or anything like that. So it's quite interesting to see that there was a lot of places already doing this beforehand.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, obviously impacting all of us in the IT industry with VMworld is now virtual. A lot of other conferences are virtual. Have you attended any yet, or have you had any experience with doing any virtual, VMugs or anything like that yet?
Yeah, a couple of VMugs. There's a load of WebExes with vendors. Seem to be pushing that quite hard. It's obviously a good opportunity. Stuck at home, while I'll go and learn some new technology. Which is great. Which is great. Before it was, you'd have to come to the show, or you got to go and meet someone to go and learn something. But having that ability just to learn something new at your fingertips is quite nice.
Yeah. Any expectations for? I assume you're going to be joining in the fun with VMworld this year. Any expectations of how things are going to be in this new normal world?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my expectations low because I'm not sure what to expect. But I am hoping for a very good user experience with it being virtual. I know a lot of investment goes into the physical event, and I've seen online virtual events where you can you have like a picture and you can click on the area you want to go and walk to and things like this. Yeah. But and that works, but it'd be nice to see something a bit unexpected and a bit more interactive. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah.
I've tried to get some information, but everyone's holding back. So we'll have to just wait and see on I think it's September.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting now that it's just one of them this year, right? So I think that's that's going to be interesting seeing the format. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, this opens up an opportunity for a lot of folks on my side of the fence in VMware, where we don't get a lot of opportunity to go to VMworld, and now we can join it. And a lot of people that have probably worked for VMware for a number of years that have never been to a VMworld, they have an opportunity now. So that works out good. So at least I think that's going to come out good. And then hopefully next year we'll all be back back on site somewhere, being able to see each other and network and have some fun that way too.
No, great. You're absolutely correct. The networking and the social side of the conferences is probably the best bit. Meeting new people. I know I met Matt last year, first time, which was great, and things like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to see people back in person as well.
Yeah. I think that's the part I'm going to miss the most. Right? Is the networking stuff, the vExpert party, the vMug party, all those fun things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of travel here, you're a bit of a Tesla nut, I understand. Do you have a Tesla?
Yeah, I have a Tesla.
How do you get a Tesla on the Isle of Man? Like, is there a dealer out there, or how is that? How does that process work? Right.
Well, Tesla don't have dealers,
right,
so you have to order it online. So you go on Tesla.com and you say what you want and you press buy, and then they'll make one and then they'll ship it out to you.
I can only imagine the person that received that order. They were like, "What? Where is this going? Like, how are we going to do this?" Right?
Yeah, there was a small problem with that. So obviously with COVID, the government had locked the border down, so you couldn't just ship a car across. So a little bit of a logistic issue. Fortunately, my father lives in the UK, so he went and picked up the vehicle from one of the service centres. He drove it onto the ferry, and then he couldn't go on the ferry because of COVID. So he walked off, and then the ferry came across, and I walked on and got in the car and had no idea how to drive
it. Yeah, right.
Wow.
Exactly.
There's a certain level of trust there. Yeah, we promise we'll get to you.
Yeah.
So you're independent of British rule. Is your steering wheel on the wrong side or on the right side of the car?
Well, yeah, our steering wheel is on the right side, and I mean, we must be one of the few areas in the world that has the right hand side. I wish I'd researched why we do that. The only thing I can think of is like the ability to put like import taxes on things because the vehicle has to be manufactured in a different way. But it just seems crazy that the world has these two different options. And
well, I kind of wonder. I mean, do you have autopilot on yours? Because I've always kind of wondered, does that impact? Is there like special software for those of you that drive on the right side of the road versus those of us that drive on the right side of the road?
Yeah. There's going to be some differences in the software, I guess, to a certain extent. But the autopilot comes with all Tesla cars. It's the full self-driving package that doesn't. So autopilot will kind of drive you around on a single road, A to B. It won't do any turns or anything like that. But it's interesting. I mean, I've only been able to test it on a small island, so far until I can get across when the whole lockdown thing finishes. But I'm planning a European trip once it's all over. So in the past, you might be hesitant to drive in a different country on the wrong side, but with the autopilot, it gives you that confidence.
Right.
So I'm very much looking forward to doing that and sitting back a little bit and not worrying too much about which side of the road I need to be on each time.
Yeah. Are there other Tesla owners on the aisle, or is it just you?
Every day I see someone different.
That's
so
good.
It's crazy. The adoptions out of this. I mean, small island. You don't need a large battery or anything, so you can go for like the lower end battery sizes, which is great. Keeps the cost down. And every day I'm seeing new drivers, which is great. It's a nice community.
Yeah. It's definitely on my list. I got a couple more years left on my current vehicle just before I roll it down to my youngest son. But it's on my list. I'm going to be really excited to see where the cars and how they develop and where the technology is, in another couple years down the road. But it will definitely be one of those that I look at and seriously consider, just because of all the really cool technology that's in it. I mean, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, it's every week I'm doing a demo to somebody, not necessarily trying to convert them, but just trying to show them what it is, because it's very misunderstood. What I would suggest is try and find someone that has one, and just ask them to give you the tour.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. You need to have a quick driving one, or have a tour around it first.
Yeah.
And you'll be sold.
Yeah, I can. I'm almost sold already. It's without even. It's hard not to deny what he's doing and the direction that they're going in. Tesla. It's just it blows me away. It's just unbelievably amazing that they've set the bar so high with everything from an electric vehicle and what it's doing for the world. So it's great. It's true visionary. He's a true visionary, and I think it's only going to get better. I'm hoping that sales continue to, really work for them, and they can keep everybody, moving and more vehicles getting, pumped out. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's great. And it's also fantastic that it overlaps our industry as well, with it being mostly software.
Mm-hmm.
So software-defined car, almost, I guess, is a new...
That's right.
Right, new acronym.
Yeah. So, Graham, you also have a great blog. I mean, I've sent customers links to it in the past when I come across articles that I think would help them out. And when you create that type of content, is it really based around like things that you're coming across in your daily business as usual, and then you're like, oh, I think somebody else would really like that? Or are you trying to pick out things that you think might be interesting to people? Or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. Sometimes there'll be a new feature that gets released, and I think, great, I need to learn that. So I'll learn it, and then I'll throw a blog post up. There's all sorts of little bits that you have to work around sometimes to get some of these things working. So if I've gone through it once, why not spend half an hour and just write it up? Save someone else the pain. Although I have to say that's becoming less and less frequent now. Software seems to be much more stable and easy to configure. So, yeah, those kind of posts you'll probably see they've disappeared over the last year or so. And it's more about how can in what way can these solutions help you? What are the new features that could be beneficial, rather than like the in-depth configuration, because it's just so much easier now.
Yeah. What content do you like creating most? Do you like writing an article? Do you like creating a video for your YouTube channel? What's the one format that you really enjoy?
I think the video should be the focus now. Obviously, we're recording this podcast with video as well. I think that's where people want video content. I think that's the future, or even the present. But it's an absolute nightmare to put together, and a huge time drain. So for me personally, I prefer to write the blog posts. It's significantly easier to get the same content out there, but I feel like the industry wants the video content. So I'm in two minds sometimes what I'll do, and you'll see a mixture. I'll kind of do the video, and because I've spent so long on it, I think, well, I probably should invest a little bit more time just to put the blog post together. So I ended up doing them both. But yeah, for sure, I'd say if anyone's looking at contributing more content, I think there's a big gap in the video side of it.
Well, Graham, thank you so much for jumping on today. Really appreciated your insights into how to get started with cloud management. Just in closing, where can people find you?
Sure, yeah. If you want to reach out, then Twitter's probably the best place. virtualg_UK. You can also find my blog, virtualg.uk. And I think that's the two best places to get in touch.
Great. Thanks for your time today. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for being on the show. It's our second show ever, so you now have the distinction of being the second guest ever on the show. So that's, I guess, a feather in your cap. You can put that on your blog or something like that, right? So
that's great. Yep. Thanks very much.
I thought it was really cool that Graham was talking about applications as really the main driver for IT. And if you're not thinking about things from the application layer back to the infrastructure layer, right, you may be doing things wrong.
Yeah, and also, he mentioned that security and compliance was a big piece of determining, how to get started with a cloud management platform. The bringing the security teams in to get involved and understand and listen so that they can have their input was also another driver in selecting a choice.
Yeah, exactly. So, security, looking at things like SLAs, right? Very important to, again, just have that application centric focus, right? Make sure that your applications are meeting the SLAs. If you don't have SLAs, start thinking about SLAs, right? The training required to be able to adopt these tools, we got to consider things like that as well. And then as we're moving into the multi-cloud era, right, we need to think about where do these applications run, and do we have tools that are going to help us to make those decisions based on things like cost, based on things like, again, those SLAs. Do we need this application to be highly available? Do we need to consider things like DR, right? There's a lot of things that we really need to look at, and we need tools to help us to, give us the data, but then also help us to kind of distill that data and make these important decisions for the business and for the applications.
Yeah, and the key is that it really needs to meet what the business needs are, right? I mean, it has to solve for a business issue. Your platform that you choose needs to make sure that it's continually working towards what the business needs and driving the business forward. And I think that was an important point that he also let us know about.
So once again, huge thank you to Graham Barker for jumping on the show today, sharing all of your insights. If you want to follow Graham, check him out on Twitter at virtualg_UK. His blog is virtualg.uk, and his YouTube, you guessed it, virtualg UK. So give him a follow. There's a lot of great content that Graham puts out. And Dan, speaking of great content, what do we have in store for the future of Cloud Management Monthly?
If you have an IT success story, whether it's cloud management or a personal IT success story, and you have a great recipe that you want to share with everybody who watches the show, give us a DM at CM Monthly on Twitter, and we would love to have you on. That way we can share your recipes for success. We also would like to review a dashboard. If you've created a dashboard that provides insight or additional analytics or something interesting, and you've submitted it to the Solutions Exchange and you want to talk about it on the show, then also send us a DM and let us know what it is, and we'd love to line you up to have you as a guest.
I am really looking forward to those recipes, Dan. I'm hoping for some good barbecue, honestly. So if you got any good barbecue recipes, or maybe even sweets, I mean, kind of a soft spot here for sweets. So please reach out to us. You can follow us on Twitter at CM Monthly. Our website is cloudmanagementmonthly.com. That will take you directly to our YouTube page where you can view all of our wonderful podcasts. And Dan, I think new now, we are on audio podcast too. Where can people grab that?
Yeah, Matt, anywhere that podcasts are available. We are on Apple Podcasts, Android Podcasts, Podbean, and also Spotify. So just search for Cloud Management Monthly. So you have a couple options there. You can watch us on YouTube, or if you prefer to listen to the show via audio, we're out there everywhere.
Yeah. Awesome. So check us out every month, new episode. Dan, it's been a blast so far. This has been episode number 2. Looking forward to so many more with you here. I can't say it enough. It's been an absolute blast. So thank you all so much for watching. Without you, we wouldn't be creating this content. So, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, give us a like, leave some comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it.
See you, everybody. Maybe he wasn't ready yet to connect either. It's probably like, these jerks are calling me. It was like so smooth. Like when I was editing, and I was like, "Damn, that was like professional. Like it went right into it."
So I can go.
Exactly. Yeah, and I won't see
there.
Big time.
Yep.
Yeah, big time. Well, I'm glad I'm not. There's no camera backwards, because I'd have this little bald spot right here that everybody would see. Welcome everybody to Cloud Management Monthly. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dat. I'm not Dat. I'm Dan. That's Matt. I'm Dat. That's me and the ladies. Get on Skype, get on Zoom, and watch General Hospital.
Please.
Yeah, please. We're begging you.
Show.